Hello. Yeah, sir. Now live is broadcast is on live.
Okay.
Um a very good morning to all the participants. Welcome to the fifth day of the program on international webinar on climate change impacts on water resources and management. And I think you have enjoyed last 4 days with different aspects of the climate change, starting with pure science and technology by ISC professor. Then yesterday you had in a field experience, field case studies by Sarath Kannepalli. And in between, you are also taken to the high altitudes in the sense that Sanjay Kumar Jain has given you the glaciers, glacier caps, retreat, and the flash floods. And today morning, we have a very great eminent professor. His experience itself is 60 years in the area of environmental sciences and wastewater treatment and regenerating the waste into then a useful form of energy, either in the sense of technology or in the sense of business module. So now we have a great opportunity and privilege that we have with me on the line Dr. Prakasam Tata. He is of 83 years old and looks very young and excellent health. You can see his extempore talk on this, and he is a very good, okay, what you call, art, inspiring the young generation. One of his best product is yesterday's Sarath Kannepalli. Now let me please allow me to speak on his biography. And he has uh, he has born to the famous couple, Mrs. and Dr. Surya Narayana Tata in 1936. Uh, India, yes, he has a education BSc from Vizianagaram, Andhra Pradesh in chemistry, major in chemistry, and Masters of Science from Nagpur University in biochemistry, and a PhD in 1966. Even I did not born in that year. He has a PhD in Rutgers University, New Jersey, in USA, Rutgers University, New Jersey, majors in environmental sciences. Even many of does not know that time environmental science. There is a science called environmental sciences. If you ask me to read his entire biography, it takes me more than 40 minutes, running into 30 pages, and directly goes to his highest achievement. Recently, the U.S. government has given a prestigious award recognizing his research, his work, his dedication to the science and society, especially the environment. Recently, has given 2019 and 20 a very famous award given to the highest order in America. It is called Ellis Island Medal of Honor in May 2019. Seven presidents of the USA and five Nobel laureates were recognized receiving this medal of the honor. So that was the highest honor an individual human can aim or dream in a USA. Which was same medal was given to the seven presidents of the USA and five Nobel laureates. And one more award to his feather is Tata Excellence in Science and Technology Award given in 2019. And American Academy of Environmental Engineers and Scientists Award, it is called Edward Clearly Award, is given in 2020. And there is one more award confirmed yet to receive is personally because of the COVID, it has been delayed. With this huge amount of background, now it is my privilege to introduce to the all audience, and also I also personally has an opportunity to listen his lecture on waste management in the climate changing scenario
Right.
change. Now it is over to the Dr. Prakasam Tata. Sir, please.
Thank you, Professor Munireddy. I'm really honored, I should say, pleased to be your speaker today, this morning. I should say good morning to you, but it is love. It is a bad time for a lot of people here in America. It's quarter to 11 um, uh, here in the USA in Chicago time. So, without further ado, all the people who are in attendance, my greetings to you. I'm sending my the best from the United States of America. Everybody is stuck up with this COVID virus everywhere, and I hope this will bring us people together and think about our future, how we can work together to avoid this menace. So, with that, let me say something about climate. And I'm following this. Of course, I retired myself in 2002 from my active job after 30 years working at the Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago as the head of the R&D program there. And right now, we also started a nonprofit organization called Center for Transformation of Waste Technology. I'm heading that also. This is a virtual institute. Any brains can come together and work together. There's no issue. I mean, it is a virtual institute. Let me put it that way, to do some good work that help the mankind. That's my dream. So to that extent, I have done several projects right in India also, and also to give back to my land of birth, and here also to the community that adopted me. For the last 58 years, I've been living in the United States. So I owe to this country also my education, my career, and everything. Likewise, to the land of my birth, which where I breathed the air of Vijayanagram, Vijay district, Andhra University. My father was among the first few PhDs, I think, in chemistry at Andhra University. So I'm very familiar with that also. And with that kind of a background, I have a lot of affinity for Andhra University. So friends like Mundi Reddy Garu and others also became very good friends at the campus. So I visit every year, and I do some work also in celebrating World Water Day, that particular day, month of February and March. That is my other side of the activities. So with that, let me begin my talk, which is I named it as climate change, water resources, impacts, mitigation, adaptation, and opportunities. Now, my outline of the presentation consists of introduction and water resources and climate change impacts. I talk about some things of the sources of so-called greenhouse gases, which are responsible for our this climate extremes that is happening now in the world. About more than 95% of the Nobel Prize winning scientists agree that this climate change is not a hoax, as some people believe. But regardless, it is happening. We know that. So we'll talk about some possible impacts of greenhouse gases, and there are some mitigation strategies. We'll talk about briefly about those, and adaptation. We have to adapt to the dire situation if it happens when natural calamities do occur. And then, what are the India's initiatives? India is a very vast country. Although the per capita contribution of greenhouse gases are very small because of the entire population of 1.2 or 1.3 billion, it is somewhat significant, although it's not comparable to the United States or the China and places like that on a per capita basis or otherwise. So I'll conclude my talk with some of the takeaway points. And I said this is not any original work or anything that I did, but I'm keeping what this environment thing because I'm also a member of the Rotary Club of Naperville. There is recently we included a focus area in Rotary, which is the environment focus. A lot of projects we're going to do through environment problems. So they asked me to review their policy document, which I have reviewed and sent my comments to them recently, about 10 days ago. So that's the kind of thing, using my knowledge and talking to people like you, students, faculty, and everybody, what are the concerns? I'm open-minded. I'm like a student, let me put it that way. I learn from people, and then try to do my best in whatever way I can influence to do those things. Okay. With that, I put Modiji's thing. He did a fantastic job at the Paris Convention. Climate change is not our making. This is what exactly is said. It is this quote. It is the result of global warming that came from an industrial age powered by fossil fuel. Yet, we face its consequences today. And that is why the outcome in Paris is so important. That's what he said. Agreement must lead us to restore balance between humanity and nature. Developed countries must fulfill their responsibility to make clean energy affordable, accessible to all in the developing world. This is the message that he gave in December 2015. And I will come back to you what commitments India made towards the end of my presentation. So, what is the long term goal of the Paris Agreement, which they agreed on December 2015? That is in the last week of December, it happened and continued up to maybe first week of January or so. Keeping the average warming below 2 degrees centigrade of the world, while also urging parties to pursue the efforts, that let's keep the temperature below 1.5 degrees Celsius. A top priority for developing countries because they're very highly vulnerable to climate impacts, particularly poor people who live on the coastlines and so forth, who depend on the fisheries. Particularly, if you look at Bangladesh, for example, every year, predictably, no matter whether the models predict them right or not, they get floods and they get washed out. So this is actually, we see that every year repeatedly occurring without any kind of modeling. What you can do this. I mean, it happens every monsoon season in that region. A lot of people washed away. A lot of people get sick with cholera and stuff like that. And what is climate change? It refers to, of course, everybody knows it's nothing but warming, extreme warming, or extreme chills, and that kind of stuff. But this is the definition that they agreed upon. Climate change refers to significant changes in global temperature, precipitation, wind patterns, and other measures of climate that occur over several decades or longer. An increase in the concentration of greenhouse gases over centuries alleged to be responsible for causing the change in the Earth's climate. This is a lot of Nobel Prizes winners and a lot of scientific community, even if informed concerned scientists and people like us who actually work in the environmental field, we all agree. There are some people who don't believe this, but they're in a minority, I think. Again, our field has progressed only with big disasters when they happen. Unless a disaster happens, nobody cares for it. But like take, for example, Bhopal incident. Then only all that hazardous waste management, things like that happen. In the whole field, if you look at the history of our environmental field, it progressed because of disasters. That's one thing. My pet peeve is that, do we have to undergo a disaster before we do something? And so what are these the so-called greenhouse gases? Carbon dioxide, of course, is universally present, that in the environment. And this is a greenhouse. If you attach a potential for it as a one unit, methane is another thing. Wherever there is rice fields, anaerobic conditions, meaning lack of oxygen conditions, when the organic matter degrades, the end product would be like methane and carbon dioxide. And here, methane is even more powerful, 21 times more powerful than carbon dioxide as a global warming type of green gas. Nitrous oxide is even more potent. This also happens when nitrogenous compounds, nitrates and nitrites, things like that, when they decompose or undergo some metabolism under anaerobic conditions, under no oxygen presence conditions, in other words, that evolves from the fields and so on and so forth, and from industries and whatnot. And that is even more potent, 310, it's relatively speaking. You can go on the hydrofluorocarbons like refrigerants and all those things. We know that perfluorocarbons, and these are very, very high. And this other compound, which is sulfur hexafluoride, is actually industrial chemicals they produce there. So what is the prediction that these are the things they were thinking about that would happen, or South Asia in the 2020s, let us say, the temperature increases were something like 1.36 degrees. The average surface air temperature increased. And 2050s is going to go up to, this is a prediction again, 2.69 degrees Celsius. In 2080s, it's going to be 3.84 degrees Celsius. And precipitation-wise, if you think 2020 says going to 2.9%, it is going to increase 6.8% over the normal, that one, and then 11%. So we are seeing more wet weather with time. There are more floods throughout the world. This is what is happening. And then the rain also is coming at some odd times also. And that causes flooding. Look at India. Every time it rains in Hyderabad, the whole streets get flooded because we don't have a flood management system. And the water doesn't find its way to go someplace else. So it stays there and people get uncomfortable to attack these situations. And it becomes even worse if you don't take care of these problems. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Warming trend over India, it was been reported to be 0.57 degrees Celsius per 100 years. Over the last 100 years, we went up by zero point 0.6 degrees. Again, these are the numbers from the literature I'm quoting here. Floods, droughts, and cyclones are key extreme climatic events. These are happening. Permanent glaciers in upper Himalayas have thawed and vacated large areas. You know that glaciers are melting not only in Himalayan region, because in South Asia, Himalayas, there are a lot of glaciers are there. They are melting, so our waters level in the seas are going to raise and so on, something like that. And architect and everywhere in the world. I mean, last year I went to Alaska. You can see these glaciers are falling like big chunks of ice into the sea. And they also said, I thought it was a natural thing that avalanches and so forth, but they have been occurring even with more frequency. And let's talk a little bit about what are the climate change impacts on water resources. Let us talk about India resources first. What kind of a water we have in India? The surface water that is produced internally in the country is at 418 kilo cubic meters, surface water. Groundwater is much more, it is in the ground, 1220 kilo cubic meters. There is an overlap because of this groundwater and the surface water mixes in the zones intermittently. There's an overlap of 380 kilo cubic meters and flows from other countries. Watch my word. Please note it very carefully. We are getting water from other countries, meaning from China, the Brahmaputra River, and Pakistan, Sindh, and all those waters, and also in Bangladesh, the Farakka bridges there. So we are depending on some waters, headwaters coming from other countries which are known as transboundary waters. And and all these countries are adversaries to India. China recently stopped you have seen. I'm thinking about this for the last 15, 20 years, and maybe 65 when the war was broken between China and India. And they can really mess us up because now they're building dams on the Brahmaputra River. If they choke it, Brahmaputra will go nowhere in India. And this can happen during your lifetime, the youngsters who are still living there, because the expansionist policy of China. Everybody's worried about that. Look at the latest map of China. How much they have occupied the land from other countries like Tibet and other places, Mongolia and places like that. So, in addition, the water resources. These are the things some people forget about. These are the tanks and ponds. I used to swim in some of these tanks and ponds, when I was young. And now some of these ponds are gone because they're shallow ponds, let us say, they're filled up with debris and mud and so forth, and they're dry now. And then developments are coming in these flood-stricken areas also. The greed of the money, the greed for the money they're building in areas which are flood-prone. Once they used to serve these like for drinking water as well as for agricultural purposes, multi-purpose tanks, because the old Maharajas dug up these ponds and the tanks so that people don't have to worry about water. So the water sinks, like the rainwater harvesting ponds and so forth. So they have wells, they dug wells, they can pull water nicely and use it for drinking and other purposes in the good old days. But not anymore. Most of the waters are polluted and they need to be rehabilitated. If water scarcity needs to be checked, it to be avoided. This is going to happen sooner or later in Vizag. My sister, she never. What water scarcity? We have a well in the house in Vijayanagram. No problem. There's so much water there, and this and that. Now, next to Raita Bazaar, they built 3 towers. You know, and last year in Sitamadhara in the apartments, there was no water. And they were bringing tank trucks for 600 rupees or 1,000 rupees a tank truck of water. Okay. Now they built another borehole. Let's spend some money for that to give the pump to the homeowners association. And they're happy, sir, we're getting water now. Because if you suck up the groundwater, it is Nighuda Dhanam, Gupta Dhanam. It is the property that you don't see. And you are sucking up the water upstream from downstream from your own backyard. They're pulling the water with the pump. And you don't know that. And this is what happens last year. It's 11 o'clock. So this thing it has to be checked. Now, look at these water resources, and there are many uses and many users. First of all, you need the water for water supply and sanitation purposes, and then agriculture is a big thing, irrigation. And about 70% of the water that we have has to be being used by agriculture. We are an agrarian country, so farmers use this. Again, hydropower. I think in India it's about 17 to 19%. Energy is gained by the waterfalls and fall of the water this kind of energy that we generate from hydropower is much cleaner than the coal generated power. Now, environmental services for cleanup and all these other things, use water. You need water. Then industry, a lot of industry need water, either for cooling or processed water, whatever it is. It is needed. And navigation, particularly for the ship to cross and so forth, you need that internal, local surface waters, like in rivers, like Krishna, Godavari. And of course, the infrastructure you need an infrastructure for management of floods, and then you need to maintain the water quality. Otherwise, people will get sick. So there's an institutional type of framework that you have to be there. And management instruments, you just can't, without good managers and operators, and systems cannot be operated. And one of the problems in India, we build systems, we don't maintain and operate them. And I insist on that because I worked in the industry, in the municipality corporation here, and we spend so much time in operating and maintenance of our system. We build wastewater treatment plants over there, water treatment, they don't function after 1 or 2 years. One time I sat with Prakash Javadekar in the old government when he was the Ministry of Water and Power, Energy and Forestry, and Ministry of Environment and Forestry, I should say. We sat next to each other. He was the chief guest of the guest of honor. I asked him, "Sir, how many treatment plants do you have in the country?" Probably it's about less than 1,000, he said. So what is the status of that? They mentioned 80 of the plants were shut down because they were not functioning at all. And 80% of the plants that were built, they don't conform to the standards of performance. And so we produce some lousy effluents to be discharged. And most of the sewage, more than half of the sewage is not treated in India. It goes directly to nalas and everything, pollute the rivers. We know that. And political, social, and economic situations, because, so society has to accept that it's not a free good. And water we think is free, it is not free. But in India, we supply the water for free of cost to farmers, and I don't know exact situation how much subsidies they get for electricity and irrigation. So when somebody gets free water, they will waste it. Definitely, they will waste it. And so these are the problem: politics, the policy making, and whose money they are going to give away. And these people have to think about this. Local the citizens have to think about it. It is not a free good. And how many times I saw leaking water pipes, the heads were taken away, and the pipes are just flowing water. Now, of course, there's nothing like this. West Side, they used to provide water for 12 to 14, 15 hours in a day. Now, you know that you live in West Side. My sister gets, she was telling me every other day she will get 30 minutes for water, 15 minutes or so. In the drought area, she would even get that. That is the situation now. In most of the, even Bangalore, which used to get 24 hours, it doesn't get that much water. So the per capita water availability, the operation is going on one side, and the good Lord has created a finite amount of water. No other water is being manufactured in the universe. We are not getting anything from other planets or anything like that. So the water is constant, the population is increasing, so it is easy to say that the water per capita is decreasing. It doesn't take a visit to say this to anybody. And again, a conceptual model, we talk about the greenhouse gases, how this climate is going to be impacted, the hydrologic cycle. Increased greenhouse gases, say, both in temperature, and then the temperature goes up, and the earth, it evaporates the water on one side, and then the increase in temperature causes atmospheric water holding capacity, increase in atmospheric water evaporates. So there is more evaporating capacity that the water gets trapped into the environment. And clouds, thunderstorms, cold fronts, warm fronts, tropical cyclones, hurricanes, extra tropical cyclones, snowstorms in the northern hemisphere, these things happen. So the bottom line is you don't have to go to this figure. The bottom line is we are going to suffer, and also we get more thirsty, we drink more water. And so all these things happen because of the global climate change. One of of water, is going to be scarce in the drought-stricken areas. More deserts also are expanding, and this continues to happen. So, what is the impact on Indian water resources during next century? This again is an article. It's an interesting article. Look at this. The date is published in Current Science, the Bangalore Journal. It's very nice. In 2006, it was published, some 14 years ago. This is the prediction. Indian subcontinent. Increase in monsoonal and annual runoff in the central plains is occurred. No substantial change in winter runoff because we don't have any snowfall or anything like that. Increase in evaporation and soil wetness during monsoon annually. You know this. Every time the rain falls in, it becomes muddy. Orissa and West Bengal, here, because there is a lot of seacoast for Orissa and West Bengal also, and going down even Andhra and that coast up to Chennai and southern tip also. Here they say 1 meter sea level rise would inundate about 1,700 square kilometers of agricultural land in Orissa and West Bengal. Indian coastline, 1 meter sea level rise is likely to affect 5,760, let's say 6,000 square kilometers, affecting about 7 million people. It may consider a small number in comparison to 1.2 billion people. But what is the fate each individual soul to me is very important. Life is very important. Life is precious for the mother. If the baby dies, the mother dies. So we have to think in those lives. Every life counts. In all India, increase evaporation across India because we get our temperature is getting warmer. Central India, this is a part of Central India, part of that. In that region, they found the drier regions are likely more affected. And Kosi Basin, their discharge in the Kosi River is going to decrease. Runoff in runoff actually is going to go into runoff is 2 to 8% more. Southern and central India soil moisture increase marginally by 2 to 8%. Then Chenab River increase. When the floods come in, Chenab River discharges more water. I mean, this is the other problem in India is if we get so much rain during monsoon and we open our gates and ultimately the fresh water goes into the sea. And unfortunately, up to the 11th to 12th 5-year plans, they have budget allocated for the building of storage reservoirs. You see, with water, you can do cost effectively two things. One is pumping, the other is storage. You can, if you want to produce some even clean water, these are the two mechanisms. Then, of course, distillation, you can put the distilled water. That's very expensive. But storage, the water that we are letting, the cusecs of water, when I look at the television news in the monsoon, how much of water they're discharging for Srisalam and Nagarjuna, this and that, Krishna, maybe, and Antarvedi and near Rajahmundry. I went there actually to see that water being discharged near Antarvedi, in Godavari, and things like that. So these things do happen. And how do we control that? It needs a lot of money to build the storage reservoirs. And of course, they're trying to do that. But how soon we're going to accomplish that is very important because we're running out of water, big population increasing, our life standards are changing, industry is increasing. You need water for all these purposes. So it's important that we conserve water besides storing and everything like that. Anything that you do with water, we have to be very mindful of it. Now let's turn to a little bit of the source of the greenhouse gases. They are from all sources of energy, agriculture, energy, when you create energy, with particularly with coal-fired um, generators, that in thermal power plants in particular. When you use coal, that's again a pollution type of resource, and it causes more greenhouse gases. Agriculture, again a big source. Waste, agriculture and municipal, I put in there, red because my heart is in the waste field. And of course, fortunately, the municipal um, sources are not that great in comparison to whatever energy or the industry discharges. Land use, again, land practices, these are the main sources of these things. And this is a complicated, this looks complex, but the thing that I want you to understand is since I'm concerned about wastewater, as I told you, the electricity, because of fuel combustion in the industry, they are the ones, the transportation using fossil fuel because they use diesel, petrol, and all those things. They are the ones, the primary sources of greenhouse gases. But it is, for me at least, I remember in my wastewater plant, somebody said, hey, you are producing greenhouse gases. Yeah, they're producing greenhouse gases. It's only 3 to 4% of the entire thing. And that too also we should control. Each percentage control of the thing, of the gases is very important. I'm not denying that. But in wastewater treatment, it contributes a little bit far less than the other drugs. So what are the greenhouse gases of importance in concerning wastewater treatment processes? These are the three main gases, carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. We talked about this before. And again, to summarize that, 3 to 4% of greenhouse gas emissions are from wastewater treatment plants. Where do the greenhouse gas come from in wastewater treatment process? Those of you who are environmental engineers, civil engineers, worried about the environmental field, this is where you get. There are two or three processes. One is aerobic process, main process. It means they consume a lot of oxygen in this process to stabilize the waste, and then the primary end product there is carbon dioxide from these units, aerobic units. Anaerobic processes that are also there, like digestion. You know about the biogas digesters, and they primarily they don't supply air to them. And so, in those kinds of conditions, methane and carbon dioxide are the end products of metabolism of the organism. So that those end products. But there is what is known as the anoxic process end product. This is where neither oxygen nor the other things are used as electron acceptors, the complete term. But anoxic process means nitrate is the primary electron acceptor. When nitrate gets reduced, you get nitrous oxide as an end product and nitrogen gas. So that's where again, in the paddy fields, particularly in the rice growing areas, uh, these types of anoxic conditions do occur, anaerobic conditions also. So they are good sources of nitrous oxide and methane gas. And also the cattle, ruminant cattle is interesting. They build a lot of methane. It's a big problem from the cattle farms. They're good sources of production of methane gas. Now, this is just a schematic of the treatment plant. I just showed some arrows putting nitrous oxide coming out from the aeration tanks and carbon dioxide also. And so these some arrows, this is, you don't have to, but just to show some of you who know that this diagram is not fully, it's not full. There are other units of process, but it's a very empirical diagram. But as you can see, the methane comes from anaerobic processes, and then the nitrous oxide and carbon dioxide, that kind of thing happens in some of the semi anaerobic or anoxic conditions and things like that. And here the percentages, if you look at that, the left-hand side, it shows to you like it's anaerobic processes only. But the other one is both the right-hand side is both anaerobic and aerobic. So actually, why this high this carbon dioxide reduction? Because when you pump in air, it produces a lot of aerobic, lot of energy is consumed in generating electricity to pump these air into these things. And plus also the carbon dioxide is the end product. So that's why it's put in 2% versus 5.6 in this anaerobic type of thing. So these things can be controlled at the same time in the processes. So what are the possible impacts of greenhouse gases? So let's look at them. Water scarcity, we mentioned, ill health, public health gas damage, food insecurity because you don't know when it's going to flood, when it's going to be drought. The floods and droughts I mentioned here. Excessive heat, tropical cyclones, biodiversity loss, organisms die because the species get extinguished because of the intolerance to these extremes of the climate. A lot of the species go away. The sea levels will rise. And looking at translating this, what kind of things happen? About 10 million people will be at risk due to sea levels increase. Several hundred million people will be poor because drought situations, they cannot cultivate. Agricultural people also, they will suffer the most, things in here. And then once their livelihood, the fishermen don't have, get displaced, they can't harvest their fish, they become poor. So poverty is I would say it is an indigenous thing. In India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, we're poor countries. And rich are rich, getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. I'm sorry to say that. 50% more people will face water stress, according to some estimates, and 1.5 million tons of marine catch will be lost because because of this kind of aberration that happened, the coastlines displacement and siltation and the pollution of the coastlines. Look at your Vishakhapatnam. I saw the treatment plant there. Uh, interestingly, those of you who are environmental science or environmental students, civil engineering students, you know this. The solution to pollution is dilution. No matter what you do, sea is there. You dump as much as you want. You get diluted. No, it has its effects on the sea, the flora. 10 to 30% coral reefs will be lost. Australian Great Barrier Reef is already seeing some changes over there in Australia. The permafrost, which is the frozen land, it is not at that, not on continent. You see the permafrost layer. And They say it will go down three times the area of Texas. Texas is a very big state next to Alaska in America. Half of the biodiversity will be lost, and the adaptation needs will increase. A lot of people will be displaced, and we have to get adapted to these the new conditions. So a lot of people will be there to adapt to this new situation. Again, there's a busy table here. Impacts on water quality and impacts on water quantity. What this climate change will do. Increase, I told you, increase evaporated water losses, increase demand for potable water, further use of water due to higher temperatures, reduce supply of fresh water due to inundation of coastal aquifers when sea levels rise, decrease the water availability in the dry season due to rapid runoff, and reduce infiltration caused by heavy rainfall over sparsely vegetated watersheds. Look at us again is very qualitative basis. Water quality, you know that. You go to any water body in India and you see that. You will see these algal blooms and so forth. They're perfect because of discharge of pollutants, enrichment of nutrients that are happening in the ponds and tanks and lakes and whatnot, and reduce the water quality due to these pathogens because the sewage is being discharged untreated in a lot of places to sewer lines, and where it is not, from the surface runoff and open defecation type of fields, and these water bodies are getting contaminated. Increased disease risk because of contamination only. Humans who are sick, they they excrete these pathogen loaded type of waste matter, and that contaminates the water. And during flood situations, even the treatment plants cannot handle the flow. Then they discharge all these kinds of crap into the rivers, and that's why they pollute. And increase naturally when you're discharging pathogens, there's increased public health risk, caused by increased precipitation of storm events, particularly storm water runoff. In India, when the storm comes in, all the scrap, gets washed away from the streets. You know that. Because of the storm water, although it is distilled water coming from the skies, when it falls on the streets, it is rated with garbage. That's what happens. Cow dung and all this other crap, animal manure on the streets that you see in official towns. Not so much probably in Hyderabad and big cities like Bombay, Calcutta. Public health impacts. There are so many organisms that are listed there. I don't want to bother you with these details, but the main moral that you take from here is the flooding that causes will wash off a lot of the stuff from the ground, where there is already pollution of the land by animals and open defecation, all these things. These are all the things that get washed off into the water bodies, and then you get these diseases. We know that. And particularly after monsoon, the doctor's visits will improve, will increase like anything, just because of diarrhea and things like that. What are the relevant threats only that are relevant to India? Let's think about that. World Bank it reports a lot of these things on a regular basis. And it predicts that India's annual average temperature could rise from 25.1 degrees Celsius to 29.4 degrees by the end of this century. I don't have to see this. I know I'll go by the end of this century. Maybe I will live long. I don't know. Bobby Chirai, who maybe I will live. I don't know. But under business and as usual circumstances, if you business, or mañana, that day after tomorrow we can do it. Why is that not affecting me? I'm living in beautiful Athens in bungalow and all that. Under business as usual circumstances, this is what they predict. What they're saying is let us work close to 1.5 degrees Celsius. That is the goal they have to reach. But we're already 1 degree or zero point 0.7 degrees. There are two numbers I gave you. So somewhere it went up by 1 degree, and some other places 1.6 degrees and so forth. But it's irrelevant. But the temperature is still going up and up. If we don't do something about it, not only in India, other countries as well, because they are the primary producers, big producers of greenhouse gases. If they don't do it, the whole world will be in trouble. In the past decade, temperatures have already risen by nearly 1 degree Celsius in parts of Rajasthan, Gujarat, Kerala, and northern states of Rajasthan, as well as in Maharashtra. They have adopted. Central districts of India are vulnerable and are already under severe rural distress. Farmer suicides. You heard about these things. I never heard of these things when I was a young man, but I hear these things these days are increasingly occurring. World Bank suggests that GDP might shrink by 10%. It's a big number. The two terms. We look at the pandemic that's causing now, and also unemployment is increasing. Here in America, there are more than 40 million people are standing in the unemployment insurance lines to get money. These are mostly temporary workers, hourly wages workers, and things like that. They don't have any work to do now. They are standing in lines. and they are dropping in industries. A lot of people are shut down. That's what they're doing with it. And if that is what is happening now with the pandemic, can you imagine what this climate change will do for us, coupled with the pandemic? Unbelievable. Temperature, but it's going to happen. And we can say that I'm happy in my home, I have my car, I have a motorbike, and things like that. It is not going to last that long, when the roads are full of flooded and everything is happening, and a lot of people are unemployed and they are not gaining any economic status, is not going up to the people, and these things will happen. And climate change is one of the reasons for that. Plus, this pandemic, who expected this pandemic to happen? So these things are combined like a big truck hitting us. Temperatures in the cities of India are rising. This causes the incidence and spread of disease. Productivity decreases in coastal cities. Flooding and sea level rises and pose a threat to human life. And mitigation, we can mitigate these diseases and some of these effects by technology and intervention and so forth. And one thing we can easily do, decrease the energy demand. We can find alternate source of energy that we'll talk about a little bit later. And primarily energy guzzling equipment. We can lower that, and we can buy energy efficient equipment and things like that. And lower emissions of, we have to lower the emissions of greenhouse gases. This is industrial type of an application they have to do. They have to control these emissions at the source before it goes in the environment. Achieve carbon emissions reduction. Waiting to achieve carbon reduction will have serious consequences. We talked about this. It's the month of the day. Fully decarbonized electric power sector by 2050. This is one thing that they were saying, that to do this decarbonized, meaning you don't want to use carbon, coal as the resource for firing of these things. There are two kinds of very pure coal as well as the sulfur-ridden coal. If you do that, see, it can be controlled. In America, they were using lousy coal containing sulfur. Sulfur dioxide emissions were there. They are controlled because the acid rain was resulting from that. Lakes are becoming acidic. And if we use this very poor coal quality, then that kind of thing is going to happen. But if you decarbonize electric power sector, nuclear on the other end, is maybe safety considered there. There's no carbon involved there. But there are other alternative energy sources that we can do that. We have to do that to actually reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. The balanced land use among sustainable agriculture. Again, agriculture. If you give free water, that they will grow rice in Rajasthan, for example. It's because it's free. My mother used to say that when I tell if we get phenyl for free, we drink it. That kind of anything for free, okay, I will buy more. That kind of stuff. Bioenergy production and carbon storage. Institute integrated water resource management practices. Again, we have the technology, we have the brains in India. Right? I feel frustrated. Excellent brains, okay, in India. But the bureaucracy, whatever you want to call it, or something like this, will impede our progress. They won't let you do things. And the top echelon people, they're bogged down by priorities that the government dictates. So how do you do this? The academic situation, universities and professors, they're willing to do that, but they have to get the resources to do it. They will do it. I'm working for the last since 2003. The people, they're excellent people. They have great brains, but they express their frustration to me, and I cry with them. What more I can do? Living in America, my heart and soul is there. I go there to they must volunteer. How many retired people volunteer in India? I want to ask a question. Think about it. Volunteerism is a great thing to do, particularly to provide the climate. This is a great thing to do. Instead of watching television. 73, this is the other thing I want to say. 73% of the adverse effects of climate change will be mitigated by not consuming meat and dairy products. This is appalling, isn't it? Because if you go and see a stockyard, livestock yard here, where they're growing beef cattle or dairy cattle, millions are get slaughtered. Cows, pigs, goats. If you go to a slaughterhouse, you will not eat meat. Guaranteed. The way the animals are slaughtered, when you go to the grocery store, they're packed very nicely. But when you see that, it is appalling. And who works in America? A lot of these, unfortunately, the poor workers from Mexico, Guatemala, and these places, they come from there and they work in those things. Some of them illegal, undocumented work. And your heart will melt. I worked in animal waste management problems at Cornell University when I was there working as a faculty. So I see these things with my own. It's not like sitting in a couch and then preaching. One has to go into the field and see these things. Then you will understand the pain and agony, and you will suffer, and how much of suffering this has. And this is not my doing. This is what the United Paris Conference was told there. Technologies are there that generate carbon oxide. Technology that sequester carbon. And look at the kind of technologies you can use: biomass, solar, alternative fuels, recycling, terrestrial sequestration. This means by planting trees and so forth. Most of you know these projects are happening in India. Fossil blue carbon coastlines, and again managing them nicely. Direct air capture of the carbon dioxide and so forth, and then there are technologies to capture it and then combine it and seal it. And carbon mineralization, geological sequestration, these are the things you can do that in underground and so forth. These are some of the technologies. And these are the things, CH4 recovery from livestock sewage and landfills. You can do this. That instead of throwing in the thing and let it go into the atmosphere, you can collect these things and use it for energy. And that energy, you can burn it for useful purposes, and then only carbon dioxide will produce, not methane and things like that. Biomass fuels, there are technology here. The wood is a good source of fuel, but a lot of people use the wood, but you can control the open burning and things like that. Forest residues, milk residues, urban wood waste, agriculture residues, gases. These are all fuels. You can fire them and then get the energy from it. But then you can control their technologies, co-fired with coal, gasification. These are the technologies that are available to control these emissions also. When, of course, windmills you see in India also nowadays, everywhere you go in America, some places in the open fields, you see the windmills, and they don't produce any pollution. Recycling is another good thing. Anything that you recycle and fill with landfill reduction, if you can achieve this instead of throwing in an open dump or something like that, the metric tons of carbon emissions can be avoided in landfills instead of using landfills as a source for filling and so forth. And in Vishakhapatnam, for example, I worked with a youth organization, India Youth for Society. Those students who are there, please join them to clean up your beaches, beautiful beaches. These guys pick up waste with their bare hands and then carry it in bags. And then they take it to near the Kaplapara dump site. There is municipality gave them, thanks to them, they gave a little piece of land. These kids, they just, they're graduates. They have college degrees, but they're unemployed. But they want to clean up the environment. Um, they want to do real good work. And in Visakhapatnam, you can demonstrate this. I'm helping them. And I start providing them with a pickup truck to pick up the stuff, the plastic, solid plastic waste from homes, from the shops, from the medical hospitals, railway stations, things like that. They can collect that and then gain employment also by recycling and making that into shredding the plastic and so forth. In that, and reduce the landfill capacity. You can you can fill them very easily with this garbage. But if you recycle and reuse that thing, you are not only cleaning up the environment, but also you're creating generation employment. And I hope that India Youth for Society will succeed. They have a passion to do these things. And those people in the Andhra University, I encourage them to join hands with them. When you have free time, give them your time, your volunteering time. I worked with them. That's what I'm telling you. At my age, if I work, at your age, why can't you work? You are less than you are one third of my age, maybe one third less, even one fourth of my age. You can do that. If I can do it, why can't you do that? That's my challenge to you guys in this regard, because I saw the problems there. In solar power, of course, everybody thinks about it. Nowadays, people are also using the solar panels in their houses, and it is again it doesn't produce any um, uh, emissions of the greenhouse gases. So you can see this. There is given the 0.5 to 1 kilowatt hour per day for a square meter of solar panels. You can compute and then see wherever you can do that. They're giving a lot of subsidies also these days, I was told. So we can do that. Now I tell you, this is my this is a schematic I came up with. Like it's a circular economy using circular economy principles. Waste are not waste; they are resources to me. I preach this. Now, take for example, you take a municipal waste or stormwater. We get this stormwater because of this storms and monsoon weather and things like that. Now we have collection and treatment, even aerobic digestion, biogas, you can get out of that. The biogas digestion, protein digestion, you know this kind of digester you can use in the waste treatment process. And the residue can be used as fertilizer. You can grow crops on that one. And then the effluent that comes out of it, you can grow fish by aquaculture. The stormwater can be mingled with that. You can store the stormwater retention pond and then supply this aquaculture pond to grow the fish there. And the fish can be for human consumption. Those people who have an objection to eat fish grown on sewage or something like that. In China, they purposely do this under their latrines. They have aquaculture ponds in China because they eat anything. Carp is not, they don't eat carp in the United States, but carp is a delicacy there. Animal feed is nothing, we can provide animal feed to our animals. And then you can grow in the aquaculture that all those water can grow algae, which can be dried up and then it looks like it can be fed like a animal feed. So the effluent, which can be combined partly with stormwater retention pond that is from there also can mingle with the effluent, and then you can irrigate to grow crops. So what I'm saying is, when you look at waste, I think they're a source of revenue. I look at all these endpoints: biogas, crops, fish, animal feed, and irrigation to grow crops again. It is cash there. You know what? Working for the water reclamation district in this field for more than 55 years, my prayer every day when I used to go to the water reclamation district, oh God, let the people of Chicago be not constipated. Let them flush every day. The wastewater comes to me. I'm guaranteed my employment. Sewage will come every day, no problem. And I'm there doing research, studying the thing, and I'm teaching at IIT, Institute of Technology, things like that. That's my prayer. My job is secure. As long as the sewage comes in. So there is money to be made. So join the civil engineering field, those of you who are interested in doing this kind of thing. Then you can sequester carbon. I think a little bit of time. So what I this carbon means you can sequester this thing for a lot of means. You can remove these things permanently from the source or do something with it. And can be directly or indirectly achieved by modifying industrial energy production operations and treating waste gas streams, capturing and storing emissions in geological formations, capturing and storing the biological emissions. I mean, the technologies are available, but they're expensive, and we are still not at the rudimentary stage. We can do this. The geological sector, they've been tried, and they work. Geological sector sending you pump this into oil gas reservoirs and injection into unminable coal seams. It's called coal bed methane. They generate here. Injection into deep saline reservoirs. It takes a lot of money to pump it and so on and so forth. But we're not there yet in India. But the technologies are available: absorption, adsorption, low temperature distillation, gas separation of the membranes. You can separate the carbon dioxide from the other gases and so forth. Mineralization and biomineralization. To mineralize carbon dioxide, it turns into water, big carbonates and things like that. And now this thing we can do in India. Terrestrial sequestration, meaning trees are very good for this. During daytime, they breathe carbon dioxide to make the carbohydrates, they plant tissue. Sun is the energy for them. They're not like us. They create their own food from carbon dioxide and the sun's rays. We need, as humans, pre-formed food. So we have to grow crops, we have to kill animals, we have to eat fish, poultry, eggs, and all that kind of stuff. They don't need that. So these forest lands can made to use nice trees, agricultural lands, to put some crops and so forth, some plants also, banana crops and things like that, biomass cropland, degraded in desert lands that are available. You can plant trees there, some casuarina and things like that. They grow there, and they fix carbon dioxide. Wetlands and peatlands are very good. Some people think they're useless, but they are the lungs of the environment. Terrestrial carbon dioxide, I told you, the sequestration is the process through which the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is absorbed by trees and so forth. Not take too much time on this. Yeah, you got the idea. You can sequester carbon dioxide by planting trees and so forth. Potential benefits for carbon sequestration practices, that water quality improvement, meeting total daily load targets. That means, see, each stream has a certain capacity to receive pollution. It has a certain capacity to purify any waste that you dump into it, the Ganges and other rivers. Then beyond a certain point, the treatment, they get exhausted. The treatment capacity is not there. And so you can use a certain limit of the pollutants up to so much, depending on the river, the quality, the length of the river, the volume and the flow velocity and things like that. You can establish a maximum daily load that the Mother Nature can tolerate in the river system or in the receiving water system. Beyond that, if you put in pollution load, it will, it will become, it will be a stinky mess. And those of you who are in Vijayanagaram, from Vijayanagaram, you know that Padacheru used to emit a lot of odors, nuisances. And that was my pet peeve. It took me 16 years of persuasion of the local authorities on my annual vacation. I didn't have to do that. But it's my passion to do things on my land of birth. I found a young collector who was there. I challenged him. Are you going to sit in the chair and warm it like the previous collectors? Poor guys, they come here and go. They don't like Vijayanagar because there's no light there. They want to go to Vizag, Hyderabad, Vijayawada, Rajahmundry. But not Vijayanagar. Who the hell comes to Vijayanagar? No life, no bars, nothing at those days anyway. But I used to assist it. That collector responded. And that Tadacheru stinks like hell. Summer holidays, we used to get the compusel only, bad weather holidays. Those things used to happen. And the remedy is very simple. We provide a treatment for the water that's the sewage that's coming in there. It's done. And my dream was realized in 2003. Even Prime Minister Modi ji declared Swachh Bharat. And I did also to eliminate open defecation, a project in a village near Vijayanagara called Duppada. And it's still working. I got that built with a $35,000. I'm a shameless beggar. Not for me. I beg for the country, for my town, for my village. That was one of my dreams at the age of 19. I must, seeing the Bengali ladies, I was in Bengal at that time, working for 4 years in rural water supply and sanitation. These people used to go in the evening. They used to hold it up till evening to openly defecate in the fields in the evening. They used to give morale, by damn fools, who drink and come back and harass them. Some people died also with snake bites. That was a real shame. There was no light, no electricity, nothing in this place. That was my that was my dream at that time to avoid open defecation, even a small community. You know what? I was 19 years old at that time. You know when my dream was realized? In 2003 again. I was 67 years old. It took me 48 years to realize that dream because I don't know anybody. You don't have to know anybody, no big shot. But some big shots work with me, you can make it happen overnight. Influential people who have the same heart to remedy the pollution. I'm willing to work with them even today. And air quality improvement, when you avoid these greenhouse gases, this carbon dioxide and so forth, the water, particularly emissions coming from these anaerobic systems. And you know what? When you clean up the environment, improvement in public relations, it will happen. Public relations is very important. You have, before you start any project, everything I did in a voluntary basis, I sat with the community. I told them, I'm like you. I want to do something for you. I don't need anything from you. I sat with them 15 times, 12 times, particularly in Vijayanagar when I was doing this open defecation project, eliminated, supply them with a clean glass of water, and also a nice bathroom and water drinking facility for them. I don't want to give something if they don't need it. I want to make sure that they need something. It's good for you. I'm giving it to nobody who uses it. But they have to feel important for that, and you can change their attitude and behavior by sitting with them and talking with them in their poor environment, not sitting in a luxury apartment building and telling something and go in the morning, come back from the village. Not like that. It won't work. But it will work. You will earn their respect. It will be a gift of your education if you can give some time to them. Again, the carbon sequestration for reforestation is one thing. 1 to 3 gigatons per carbon per year in America, you can do this. One tree will sequester carbon dioxide for 8 hours for 4 hours. One tree will sequester carbon dioxide from car travels at 1,242 miles, multiply that by 1.6 kilometers. Train and coach travel up 6,210 miles. You can have a carbon back. I'm going to defer this topic for a later thing, but it's very simple to understand. So this kind of thing you do. These are some of the trees that are conducive, probably Indian trees. I don't know too much about them. When they grow big trunks, that means they're holding up carbon dioxide. They're taking carbon dioxide into their trunks and so forth. They're sequestering carbon neutral. At least they're not burning anything unless you burn it. Other factors to be considered. You can do alternative fuel vehicles, which is now big research is happening. When I was young, I used to talk to them. I used to recite Aditya Hrim. I don't know how many people you read about that. It's about the sun god. It's called Pratyaksha Devam, the god that appears before you every day. It's a planet. But the power of sun is described in this Aditya Hrim, which was recited by Agastya Maharshi to Ram, to kill Ravana. So he told this, you recite this mantra every day, and you will get the energy and the power to kill Ravana. That's the mantra. You read it if you get a chance. And in that, it tells about the sun god, the sun's power, energy. A couple of minutes falling on the earth, it can light up the whole world for a year or something like that. And this is there. And we have plenty of sunshine in India. In Vizag, we get about 12 to 13 hours of sunshine in day, the southern monsoon days. And determine carbon oxide's energy saving mechanisms, changing light bulbs from incandescent ones to others. You can put the LED lights in your warehouses, your own homes, and you can save a lot of energy. Claim carbon dioxide for every little effort you make. Don't be shy. And employ risk factor 20% to cover contingencies as suggested by the carbon exchange. They started the carbon exchange in Chicago. It shut down because the business model didn't work because Americans did not um, did not accept in the Paris Agreement. You can put a price, on the carbon that if some industry say they're allowed to emit so much carbon dioxide, and some other industry let's say they are emitting a lot more carbon dioxide than what they were allowed at current price. So they can trade. The guys who are producing less carbon dioxide, they can accept the carbon credits. They can sell the credits to them and then make money. So this is simple trading business. The same thing with nutrient trading also. The carbon trading, it was selling at one time something like $20 in the European Union. In America, they started with $3 a ton of carbon dioxide trades. But it has failed because the market didn't work yet. It closed the carbon exchange in Chicago, like a stock market. So opportunities to earn carbon credits from municipal agencies. This is there because in India it's too far away because we don't have too many treatment plants yet to be built. There are you can explore in-house opportunities anywhere. You can buildings also you can do this. You explore what are the opportunities there for in university building around the university. Ventilation, insulation. You can do simple things like that. When you don't have power, of course, this morning Professor Muniredi was telling me that there's no power. It's a great conservation measure and no carbon dioxide emissions. If you want to live with light, right? So you have to produce electricity. But then even then you can control the emissions also with laboratory techniques. Exploring using final effluents for irrigation and biosolids. When you do sludge, like a fertilizer and so forth, green grass, native plants, and woody trees on open land. Trees will fix up. Exploring using constructed and natural wetlands as media for sequestering carbon. Carbon credits can be earned by offsets. We are too far away from that. But it's not going to happen soon because America has not signed the Paris Agreement. Well, you can do that internally in a synergistic fashion with among the industries because um, um, what you said will reduce emissions. So we have to do it ourselves. Whether there is money involved or not. Adaptation strategies. It means when the climate gets disaster, you have to adapt to it. So climate impact is, let's say, increase in precipitation. You have to reduce the inflow into sewers, divert flows, reduce velocity and volume of outflow, creating barriers and green infrastructure, check dams, stormwater, and combined sewer overflow treatment. These are things you can do. Temperature variations, other environmental factors, when they hit the climate thing, process flows through natural and constructed wetlands to reduce the effect of it, mixing with other cooler or hotter waters, depending on the temperature of the water. The cold chemistry mix with hotter water in the arid climates, like we mix it with cool water. Elevated water, seawater, when that happens, install levees and seawalls as required to arrest seawater intrusion into sewage treatment plants and appurtenances. Fortify sewage or prevent the reducing fortify sewage plants to prevent and reduce infiltration. Flooding when it occurs, install storage ponds, and to bypass excess flows, irrigate golf courses, fields, and you can use this for irrigation. When flooding occurs, you have to store. First of all, I told you there are two things you can do. One is storage, the other is pumping. So, if you, as engineers, can devise a mechanism to hold this water, you could do a lot of things when the driver that comes in. What are India's initiatives? What is India doing? India's intended nationally determined contributions, these are INDC they call, this is what when the Paris conference happened, announced at the Paris conference is what they want to do. Reduce emissions from its gross domestic product operations by 33 to 35% by 2030 from 2005 level. That's what they want to do in India. And you youngsters should watch this. And I don't think I will live that long. Maybe it's only 10 years. I'm 85 now. I'm going to be 85. Another 10 years, do you think I live? I don't know. Maybe Papi Chiraivu, I might live to see this. Not happening. I don't know. 40% cumulative electric power generation from non-fossil fuel-based resources by 2030. These are the things that Modi ji said, or his government and his experts. Create an additional carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion tons by 2030. That means you have to provide some kind of a sink to absorb this carbon, to mitigate this carbon. And they said they will propagate sustainable living. And then also they said they will adapt to the climate friendly and path of production, clean energy production, cleaner production in industry and so forth. That's what they said. Annually, look at this. I will say to those senior professors and the policy changers who are instrumental in doing things for the youngsters. Annually, 220 billion rupees of corporate social responsibility money is to be spent on environment initiatives. If there is a vice chancellor there in your group or some gentleman who is heading some big academic institutions and things like that, we should try to establish an environmental center in India, particularly in the region, either in Vizag, Amravati, wherever you think the fit with this land available cheap, you can do this. Get this money. And industry is supposed to give to 2.5% or 2% of the gross profits, CSR or projects. And this is the one that's in the Paris conference, 220 billion rupees. And one time I was thinking about, Department of Science and Technology, they would give grants, I was told, then the chairman, up to 20 crores to establish a lab and things like that. I said, what a great idea. Maybe in Andhra we can do this. It doesn't matter. Wherever it is, in that region. The coastal region, we have plenty of coastal region, long coastal region. And marine research, marine center, marine environmental problems, mangroves, uh, they are lungs again. And these things will be destroyed. And they will destroy it on the shoreline, they build buildings there. Again, carbon consumers, carbon guzzling, carbon emitters, and things like that. So there's one thing you can look at the CSR money. Everybody wants to put their money on that. But then when we talk about environmental initiatives, cite this Paris, this INDC kind of things, I think we have a chance to do that. And let's work on that. A voluntary carbon disclosure program for private sector handled by carbon disclosure project. I don't know anything about this. Don't ask me a question on that. A study of 100 Indian companies in 12 sectors over a 5-year period have been reducing water consumption by 2.8 to 3% per year. My pet peeve is Israel has 60% of desert land and 40% is semi-arid. And they don't have a water deficit or scarcity. On the top of it, they export water to Jordan and Palestine. And these guys are living in the midst of wolves, all around enemies. For them. Yet, look at it. They don't have water scarcity, and, and they grow crops in the Dan River region. And then they export apples, produce olives, and everything. They grow there, and that's the desert climate. Look at the mastery they have. Drip irrigation, we can master that art. I think there's a company that's doing that. Again, an engineer, I was curious, how this thing happened. You know what? One engineer noticed one tree in this desert area coming out up, one plant. And he said, how come this plant is coming? And the other is not coming. Other place is not. And he found a leaky pipe or something like that, that was discharging a little bit of water by dripping. Drip, 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 drip. And this plant is taking the water. That's how I was told drip irrigation came to being. So you can conserve a lot of water instead of irrigating with a lot of flooding the fields and things like that. You can do this. And that we can do in India very easily. A lot of people are doing that also. India's existing initiatives, mitigation strategies. National solar mission, 20 gigawatts to 100 gigawatts by 2022. Kochi Airport, I was told, will be the world's first to run fully on solar power. Proposed solar power toll plazas, they're going to install. Nationwide campaign for energy conservation, targets to save 10% energy consumption by 2018 to 2019. I want you to find this because we miss these deadlines like nobody's business. And I think my guess, if you want me to make a guess, I don't think we have met that thing. But some young curious student can find out whether we achieved this or not. Smart cities mission to build a clean and sustainable environment. Swachh Bharat mission, Clean India mission. Zero effect, zero defect. Pollution control, waste management, use of renewable energy. Green highways, plantation of maintenance policy. 130,000 kilometers long tree line along both sides of national highways and national air quality index to develop that thing in manage air quality. Look at these great initiatives, but how do we implement them? Who is following that? Who is tracking the progress of it? Is it going to be sustainable? Or that's only a lecture that we gave at Paris Agreement? I don't know. And you are the judges. You are the future. And I think you have to put your mind to it. Otherwise, if water is the primary source after air, if you don't have water, what good is it to live even in a palatial building if there's no water? Just think about it. This is existing adaptation strategies. Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Ujjana to promote organic farming practices. These people can farm to adapt to the new situation, begin organic farming. Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sanchaya Yojana to promote efficient irrigation practices. National Mission for Clean Ganga, a lot of people know Ramani Gange to regulate Ganges River. National Bureau of Water Use Efficiency to promote, regulate, and control efficient use of water. These are some of the things. You see, these things I don't know. But thanks to Munireddy Garu, he gave an opportunity to study these things intensely for the last 10, 15 days. I worked like crazy to understand, to tell you something about what's going on in India. I made a lot of effort for this. Maybe I'm short of this thing, maybe you know better than I do. I apologize for that. But these are the things that are happening in India. But how much we're going to achieve from this, what is the progress, what is the track? Somebody has to do that. National Adaptation Fund, there's 3,500 million rupees available. Reduction in subsidies and fossil fuels, they're going to do this. Coal tax, I like it. Fourfold increase in from rupees 50 to 200 per ton. There's a carbon mafia is there, coal mine mafia. You have to watch for these guys. To finance clean energy projects, tax-free infrastructure bonds for funding renewable energy sources. These are some of the projects. Right? So I'll conclude my presentation with some of the takeaway points. I will summarize these things for you. Um, our Earth is warming up because of increased concentration of greenhouse gas in the environment. It will continue to get worse before it gets any better, unless we do something about it. Efforts must be made to let the temperature of our planet to not rise beyond 1.5 degrees centigrade within the next 2 decades. Wastewater treatment plants, that's my field, I was asked to say something about it, and we contribute 3 to 4% of greenhouse gases. With India building more treatment plants, the GHG, greenhouse gas concentration may increase in the environment. That's one of the observations I think I can make. Um, Global warming mitigation technologies are available and should be implemented as soon as possible if not already being done so. This is a good area of research for the academicians. You can apply for grants, Department of Science and Technology, and then tell them what you have achieved. Some students get benefited by actually hands-on training in some projects that you can undertake in the area of alternative energy manipulation or even planting trees or what are the different type of trees that can store carbon. There are ideas that we can develop. Planting of trees and afforestation, if there's a will, it can be undertaken. India has agreed and developed many programs to reduce greenhouse gas concentrations in the environment. It has to implement and ensure their sustainability. India must execute best management practices to remediate the pollution of water bodies, maintain and operate its water infrastructure to ensure adequate, good quality of water to use sustain for sustainable economic growth. We have to have that. So, with that, I close my presentation and thank you very much, Muniredi Garu, for giving this opportunity for me to speak. Usually, I go to bed around 12:30 anyway, so you gave me more incentives to put my brain through the presentation together. I don't think I did make any original contribution to this, but it is an information gathering, something like a broad stroke review for those students, who are not in the environmental field. They're listening to you in this particular conference. It is just an attempt on my part to do this thing, and I myself got excited when you asked me to do this. So thank you very much for that, and thank you the audience who are there. Personally, I see them when I address these lectures, but unfortunately, this pandemic, we go through this kind of medium, which is good also. And I thank you all for your patience. And there I will stop. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, sir, Dr. Prakasam Tata, Professor Prakasam Tata.
Thank you, sir.
Now, I would like to introduce Dr. Jairam Reddy, the Chief Executive Officer of Science City of Andhra Pradesh.
Yera Reddy Garu, I heard about you. Thank you very much for
Good
being here.
morning, sir. Sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, very good morning to you.
Sir, can you please
wonderful presentation, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. Japan, sir.
Professor Prakasam, can you please take some questions from the audience?
Oh, definitely. I don't know whether I've answered them properly or not, but I will try.
No, it will be appearing on your screen. The text will be.
I know. Yeah, okay. Oh,
now, if I request all the participants and audience, if you have any clarifications and doubts. Yeah, there is a question, sir. Can you able to read that?
yeah, there is a question, sir. Can you able to read that? Yeah, I can read that. Yes. What is the question?
Would you be able to please elaborate on the carbon sink vision of India?
Very good question. I told you the carbon sink, where the carbon is going to get stored. Geological formation, pumping, and all that thing. I think we will not be able to do it right away. I would say the carbon sink would be able to, by forestation, it is a carbon neutral thing. At least we take the carbon away and we grow the trees, and then that carbon is at least taken away from that. That is the easiest thing to do because there are other technologies that are there. They are expensive, and we do not have any experience. And these kinds of things, somebody has to come and visit other places, to learn firsthand. Any particular technology, when it is published in a paper or something like this, very interesting. But I am a firm believer in interacting with particular affiliates where they are doing this, and then learn from them. What are the problems? First of all, we can always praise ourselves and give a pat on our back for the wonderful things we do. But India, my main thing is when you involve technology with a lot of machines and this and that, the maintenance and operation is a big thing. And we build things and the maintenance and operation. I went to various universities. So that's the problem.
Sir, there is another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
How much industrial wastewater is generated in India and how it is treated?
I don't know the exact quantities of the wastewater from each industry that is there, but I know they are making an effort to treat it. And some of the things that I saw, I'm very disappointed. I will tell you a personal experience of mine in Vapi, Gujarat. Vapi is an industrial town. There are more than 25 industries that discharge into a treatment plant. And Daman Ganga is the river. And believe it or not, Greenpeace and others branded it as a very hot spot in terms of pollution and pollution in the water bodies and even the emissions, the volatile organic compounds, they're called VOCs, into the environment. So one of my friends bugged the hell out of me to go as a volunteer. And I said, I will go with you. Don't bug me too much. So when I went to India, this was in something before maybe 2000, 2001, after my retirement. I went there, 2002. And we spent 1 week of our time at our own expense. Nobody paid us anything. And I had to convince that the general manager that we are not press people. We're not going to bother you. We're not going to badmouth you. We're not badmouthing is done in the papers anyway. But we want to help you in any way we can. And I worked in Chicago. I took another guy, that's the manager of treatment plant. To make a long story short, that polluting like hell, that river. And the second time, I sent this report to the Ministry of the Secretary of Environment, and they fired the general manager because he was ordering so much of activated carbon to treat the industrial waste. There's no account for that. So then, right, they fired him. And a new general manager was appointed. Uh, so I did. They went to know that in India. They invited me.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then I went there second time. A third
Yeah.
time, I led some group. I went there. To make a long story again, the pollution remained the same. They said they did something to it, but nothing. I walked from the inlet end of the plant to the outlet into the river. So that's one example. And then I saw two or three other treatment plants in Gujarat, industrial waste being from discharging industrial waste. The same thing, dry waste and things like that, they are handling it properly. There may be some treatment plants that they talk about zero liquid discharge, and I saw one treatment plant in Vizag, the pharma city. Recently, there is an accident there also, and it was smelling like crazy when I went there. There were emissions into the air. So the actual quantities, that's a good project for somebody. They want to go to Vizag, about the and also in the pharma city and other places in Singapore.
Yeah. Professor Tata, Professor Prakasam, there is another question
Yeah, please.
from Mr. S.K. Das. The increase of GHC, particularly CO2, is beneficial to increase the productivity of the crops due to its higher carbon compensation point. What is your opinion? Shall I repeat?
No, I understood what I said. With more carbon dioxide is there, more productivity or something like that. He's saying that, right? That's the question.
Yeah, crops due to its higher carbon compensation.
I mean, there is enough carbon dioxide already in the environment. Okay, so whatever crop growth you're seeing, the carbon is not the limiting nutrient for the crop growth. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash are the other fertilizing elements because photosynthesis they are highly I would say autotrophic because organic carbon. It's inorganic carbon. It comes in the form of carbon dioxide. That is there adequately. That look at even the productivity of the crop in India or anywhere else. It is depend on the fertilizer application, and also excessive fertilizer is not good for the plant because it gets washed off when rain into the river. So I don't think carbon is a limiting thing for that. You don't have to put extra carbon dioxide to grow the plant. They will grow by themselves. There's enough carbon. That's my opinion.
Sir, there is another question from Mr. Nagendra Prasad.
Hmm.
He is my PhD scholar.
Okay.
And he is asking what is the effect of climate change on stormwater quality?
Stormwater, yes. You see, when the storm comes in, Nagendra, they what is known as the first flood. Okay, so if the intensity of the storm, let us say, it only rained for say 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Okay, there is enough water to flush out the pollutants that are on the ground, like the petroleum vapors that are there, the
Science City of Andhra
tire scrapings that have happened, or any oil spills or whatever that is there.
already
We
accepting.
we did a study. The first flush of that will be very concentrated,
But request to be the collaborator.
and then any other the following that it is a heavy rain, the first flush, including in the houses, for example, the bird droppings and the roofs and so forth, they get washed out in the first flush. So after some time, if the rain continues to happen,
So,
the water that comes later on after the first flush goes out, that is very easy to run, and that is clean. So there are ways of treating stormwater, and now, of course, it's a big thing in America to treat the stormwater because it is a big pollution source. Because a lot of these places, the cement so that the water gets to the sewage. So this is a problem. And as I said, the first flush we did a study. First flush is more concentrated than the after some time when the rain is still falling. Then it get much purer, greater quality water. So overall, if you store it, it is a dilution effect. You can mix it up, and then of course, groundwater generally is not anyway. So, but more the rain, the quality of the stormwater, if you can impound it, it will be better. Quality wise, it will be better. Because storms again cause damage also. To the So, I answer your question.
Sir, there is one more question from Shailesh.
Hmm.
Scientists are using genetic engineering to make trees produce more terpenes.
More what?
Terpenes, Terpenes.
Oh, that means okay.
Could trees be engineered to produce rainfall?
They transpire moisture into the environment and evapotranspiration. They do transpire. Transpiration is called. They do transpire, but they do it themselves. Are engineered to. There are some deciduous plants. There are some water accumulated plants out there, but they themselves don't produce the rain by themselves. They take up a lot of moisture also from the environment and also from the water that they get from the ground. I've not seen anybody growing trees to produce rain. Like banana plants, good absorbers of moisture. They do absorb a lot of moisture from the ground. So I suggest, if there is some water logging or something, if you plant banana plants there, you get banana crab which grows above the ground, so that it is not contaminated by the microorganisms or some pathogens. You don't want to grow any crops like leafy vegetables, something like that at the ground level.
Sir, can you please lower your hands? You are obstructing the camera.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
And I can see myself. That's why I'm sorry. I can't see my. Am I look creepy to you guys?
Sir, Balapasa, sir.
Javani. Avunara?
Hello.
Yeah. Good morning. Are you there? Is that Professor Balaprasad? Hello? Yeah.
People are mentioning about the morning, sir.
Huh?
People are mentioning a lot about the CO2 contribution. I hear. Are you here?
Yeah.
I can't hear you properly.
I'm here.
చెప్పండి సార్.
మీరు బాగా వినపడుతున్నారు. బాలప్రసాద్ గొంతు
People are mentioning about the
People are mentioning about the
contribution of CO2.
contribution of CO2.
Contribution of CO2 to what?
Hello.
People are mentioning.
చెప్పండి సార్. People are
టైప్ చేయాలా?
సార్ మెసేజ్ పెట్టండి సార్ వాట్సాప్ లో కానీ అక్కడ ఉంది.
From the cattle feed.
Yeah.
From the cattle.
Yes. From the cattle?
సార్ మీరు వాట్సాప్ లో మెసేజ్ పెట్టండి సార్. సార్ నేను చదివి వినిపిస్తాను. టైప్ చేస్తే పెట్టండి సార్. చెప్పండి సార్. సార్ I think he has typed somewhere the text, it is not appearing on the screen.
By the way, I sent my...
Professor Prakasam, there is one more question.
Yeah.
Will the remedies to climate change be worse than the disease? Will it drive more people into poverty with a higher cost?
No, actually, the poverty is a question of, if there are floods, if we don't control it, people get washed out. Okay, their crops will get destroyed. The coastal communities will disappear more or less. Every year is happening in Bangladesh. They are used to low cost of living anyway, but they have to find alternative accommodations and things like that. So this is a big problem. That's why I'm telling you now, poor remain poor unless we inculcate a change of behavior in them, and then provide the affected communities with some kind of lifestyle, so that they are not impacted by these kind of things. We can mitigate some of these things by intervention, but if they don't want to move from the places. But I think recently, look at when they created that Polavaram, that project with dams and all that, the people were removed from their areas, from their habitat, things like that. And KCR, they provided a lot of things. She said everything that is provided and so forth. So and some planning has to be done. You just can't do this thing like teacher cooperation when it happens. It has to be done beforehand, before the disaster hits. They can be again, the awareness is a fundamental thing we have to do. Educate the masses. Behavior change is very important, and we don't spend too much time on that one. And they also want to live a happy life, but that's what they are used to. That unless their behavior changes, and they tell them this is what is good for you, for your kids, and people have to spend the time with them. And I said I'm a scientist and some quasi engineer. I sat with these people. I can probably say that project is still working from since 2002. The electronic complex and the
There is another question, sir.
Yeah.
She is Mr. Aruna Balaprasad, sir. About CO2 contribution from cattle living peoples, I feel that CO2 due to artificial sources matter than natural. Ecosystem has a lot to take care of naturally generated CO2. I repeat the question. Mentioning about the CO2 contribution from cattle
Uh,
The peoples means just to leave the other than the people cattle CO2 contribution. I feel that CO2 due to the artificial sources matter than natural. Ecosystem has lot to take care of naturally generated CO2.
oh, sure. Naturally, see, I'm not talking about CO2 from the cattle. I'm talking about the methane. You see, the ruminants, uh, they belch out so much methane. They fart. They, when they put the dung and so forth, you can. There is a lot of methane. Their ruminants, their characteristic. They produce a lot of methane. I'm not talking about carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide in the environment, that the plants and the other things, we provide them the natural habitat, carbon dioxide will go away. I agree with the Professor Balthasar, the artificial source is what? The industries belching out carbon emissions, power plants emitting carbon emissions. Yes, they're not natural. They are man-induced. They are anthropogenic type of carbon dioxide. But I'm not talking from the carbon dioxide from the cattle. And we produce carbon dioxide. We breathe oxygen. We produce carbon dioxide. This is natural. This is happening. That's not the issue. I'm talking about cattle, big cattle yards here, huge cows, huge steers. They produce so much of methane, okay, which is 21 times more potent than the carbon dioxide. I'm talking about them. Uh, the methane that is produced, not carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is the natural carbon dioxide. No, I agree with him. Natural carbon dioxide is not an issue. From the artificial sources, from the cattle, methane, and again from the chimneys and the industrial production of carbon dioxide emissions, they are a problem. They can be.
So there is another question from Aruna Jyoti.
Mhm.
Nowadays, treated wastewater from sewage treatment plant used as irrigation water.
Yes.
Is it okay in the health point of view?
Absolutely. If you, that's one of the ways I tell you. That water has a lot of nutrients in it, and there is the irrigation water quality standards are there, and we have to produce that water, make sure that it conforms to the quality of that, and then is absolutely okay. But again, people may get fussy that they grow the crops and sewage derived water. That's why I say if you don't grow any leafy crops growing close to the ground, grow some fruit trees or banana plants or something like that, then they are away from the ground. Even some pathogens might disappear. The treatment plant is not doing a good job. They're not they're not maintaining the standards. Even then, as long as something partially treated, something irrigation, it can be done. And in France, they're irrigating with sewage for a long time, and the sewage treated water. So even here in Muskegon, we did a lot of studies in golf courses. We are irrigating golf courses, and they have to buy the water to irrigate the golf courses. But here they get the water much cheaper. The irrigate the sewage water, sewage derived water, the effluent water. It meets more or less the agricultural quality water when it's disinfected and so forth. So I don't think it's a big issue if you take precautionary measures and grow crops not close to the ground. Okay, grow upstairs, like fruits and banana things like that. It
So
will
there
bring.
is another question. What does climate change have to do with hurricanes and typhoons?
What does climate change has to do with hurricanes and typhoon? That's what they say. The greenhouse gases are causing those things because of the greenhouse effect. The heating is getting trapped and is causing the water evaporation and all that kind of thing. That's what it is causing. These hurricanes and cyclones. If you reduce this, what is the yesterday also the predictive models and things like that, they're doing it. And I'm not a modeling expert or anything like that. These are the studies that were done, and they're showing that there's a relationship between the carbon emissions, carbon dioxide emissions, and so on and so forth, because that is the largest contribution, carbon dioxide. Actually, methane, from the anaerobic processes and things like that. And so that is the general consensus among the climate scientists that they are responsible for the hurricanes and cyclones uh, in the tropical countries. Yes.
Another question is scientists have developed many adaptation measures and mitigation measures. Then we are worried about food security due to climate change.
Yeah, food security is there. Food security in the sense, as I said, the flooding and things like that. when the crops, you look at the Andhra Pradesh, for example, when it rains, acres and acres of produce, the product that they grow, either rice or other crops are, they're destroyed overnight. And even the grain that was just harvested is wasted, because of the rain and things like that. So it's true that food security can be assured with mitigation measures and controlling of the flood waters and so forth. It can be done. But again, I tell you, Mother Nature, we cannot predict that. In spite of all these bad climate models and things, in Chicago will tell you there are 200-year storms that came in within 2 months apart. I mean, it's unusual. Why it happened? Mother Nature decides, we have 100-year storms. 2 years, in 1 year. So, for food security again is one of those things. One year it is too much floods. The other thing is too much drought. Okay. So this is the problem. And I say, if you have too much water, if you store it in the drought conditions, you can use that water for irrigation when the farmer demands it, when needs it. You can do that. But suddenly the crop is ready to be harvested, and if I don't hit that thing, it's Mother Nature's disaster. It happens like earthquakes, like fires, volcano eruptions. We don't know when they will erupt and so forth. There's a lot of damage will come. But we have to be prepared. These things happen. The probability, again, I'm not a probability statistician or something like that to predict when these things going to happen, but they do happen. I agree. And we can have certain mitigation measures we can do when they are hit. How quickly we can transfer that water and into some kind of reservoir, and then hopefully these grounds are not fully saturated, and we can remedy at least part of the problem. We can do that.
Sir, there is another question from Gnana Ranjan Sahu. How biodiversity conserved due to climate change?
How much what?
How biodiversity can be conserved due to climate change?
That's again another good question. Biodiversity, they said, is going to reduce the climate change effects. Okay. And that happens, you see, for example, if the temperatures, there's other thing also. Whether there's an increase in biodiversity or as a menace, I don't know. But these organisms that flourish in the tropical climates, warm climates, if you literally have this so-called global warming in this instance, those diseases are coming now. Okay, they are migrating because of the increase in temperature. That's what's happening. Tropical disease, things like that. They're seeing them in northern climates, which was never the case before. When the first time when I came to this country in the 60s, it was not. I was not reported that many things. But now it is happening. And again, those tolerant species, which are cold water species or something like that, they don't stand the hot water. They disappear. Again, there are measures to mitigate them. As I mentioned to you, you can blend the cool water with the hot water. Again, it is that somebody has to do it. Technologies may be available, but can we afford it at the time? Biodiversity is reducing. We know the species are maybe the natural extension